Hello and welcome to this webinar on Hyperdocs and choice boards. I'm Lori Guion. I'm the coordinator for model schools at Washington, Saratoga, Warren, Hamilton, and Essex BOCES. You can reach me at lguion@wishweboces.org, or you can contact me on Twitter. I'm hoping to help you out on learning what Hyperdocs are and what choice boards are and how you can use them together. So I just wanted to throw a few slides up to kind of get us started. We all know that sometimes you need to do worksheets in your classroom, but there are different ways you can package those worksheets so that they kind of transform the learning for your students, and that's when you're starting to think about a hyperdoc. It still is a doc with links, but what the students have to do and how they have to use the information and express themselves with the information, explore and communicate and create with the information that you give them transforms the learning and really puts them in the driver's seat. And that's where we're going to focus on today. So what is a hyperdoc? A hyperdoc replaces your normal worksheet and transforms it into an interactive and engaging lesson. So it is a way of organizing your lesson plan in such a way that the students are doing the work. When would you use it? You could use it for any lesson in any classroom and with any age group. I've used them as young as kindergarten, and I've used them in some grad classes. Hyperdocs do allow for differentiation, exploration, and student agency because students have to do the work. So what is a hyperdoc and what does it look like? On the left, you see a full hyperdoc from the Engage right through the Extend. And on the right, you can see a basic hyperdoc that has Explore, Explain, Apply. Do you have to use all parts every time? No, but we're going to go through each part and we can take a look at why you might use different parts as you're going through and creating your lessons and your activities for your students to use. So let's talk about the engage part first. When you're engaging your students in the learning process, you're thinking about something that's going to hook them and getting them excited to learn. Some of my favorite ways to do this is by doing a quick Nearpod game or activity, using something like Answer Garden or Mentimeter, where you're getting some information from your students, using a quick meme or a poll or a quiz, anything that kind of gets them ready to go. When you're using the Explore part, again, the students are still kind of doing the work on their own. They're thinking about what it is they want to know. They're trying to get a little bit interested in the topic that you're asking them to explore. You can do this through virtual field trips, taking them out to a piece of art or a 360 image, a quick TED ed, or even an article to read. But you're starting to give them the meat of what you want them to know, but they get to explore it on their own. It's a great place to put in choice boards, and we're going to talk about that more later. In the explain portion, this is your direct instruction. This is the part where you're typically in front of the room giving your students the information that they need to be successful. How do you do that? Well, in a virtual world or in a hybrid model, you might do this through an Edpuzzle or a Nearpod video like we're doing today. Or you can put together a lesson on Explain Everything. You can record a video on Loom or Screencastify. You're giving them the actual meat. It could be that they have to read a bunch of different articles and kind of explore things. It could be pages in a textbook. It really doesn't matter where you're giving them the information. The point is here you're trying to give them all the information they need to be successful. Now, normally when I run webinars or I do workshops, I would send you off to take a look at this Hyperdoc choice board. So what I'm going to have you do is pause the video, spend some time looking at the links in your slide deck that you have, so that way you can have a little foundation as far as what a Hyperdoc looks like. This is me giving you the explain part of what a hyperdoc is. So take some time and go through each of these squares or pick one, and I'll kind of go through what you'll find in each of those squares. In that first square that says, what is a hyperdoc and how do I create one? That's for the true beginner. You're going to get a study guide and a book guide. There's going to be some how-to videos. You're going to spend some time exploring and learning a little bit more about the meat of what a hyperdoc is. If you go over to the next one that says, how do I know it's a good hyperdoc? Let's say you have one and you just kind of want to gauge it to see, is it doing what it's supposed to be doing? Or is it just really a multimedia tech set where the students are consuming the work, but I don't have them creating enough? There's a video that kind of walks you through what to look for. And there's an evaluating PDF that you can kind of go through and organize your hyperdoc to take a look at through there. If you want more training, so you really want to get much more in depth, Hyperdocs women, there are 3 women that designed this format. They're from California. They put together some free online courses. for you. Or they've also created this great slide deck called a How-To for Parents, and you can certainly walk through it yourself, and it's going to explain what a hyperdoc is at a really simple level as it goes through each parts of a hyperdoc. If you go to the bottom, it says, what do hyperdocs look like for my classroom? Here you're going to see tons of examples of actual hyperdocs. You can search for your topics, save some of those resources. You're going to see them on a Padlet or in a Google Drive folder or on a website. You're going to see them in all different places to be able to take a look and see what a hyperdoc actually looks like. In the center at the bottom, where do I find resources? Here you're going to see, again, some more resources for you to learn more about hyperdocs and have some more examples. There's some great beginning of year and end of year activities that you can see on there to kind of see how hyperdocs fit within your classroom. The final box, what goes in all the boxes, you're going to have access to another presentation that just gives a little more information and a really great Google Doc that has tool suggestions for each section. Now, if you're going to use a tool with your students, make sure that you've checked with your school, with your data privacy officer to make sure that it's completely EdLaw 2D compliant for your school to use. And then after the students get the meat of the lesson, this is where they typically apply. So in a standard traditional classroom, you might do a lesson, have them do a worksheet, and then give them a quiz. Here, where they're going to apply, you want to give them choices on how they're going to showcase what they've learned. They could create a video. They could do an activity in Seesaw. They could design something in Buncee. They could use augmented reality. They could create a video in Flipgrid or in Adobe Spark. Anything that you typically would use to give students choices on how to showcase their learning. In the share part, this is where the students, now that they've created something, are going to share it. The idea at a hyperdoc is they should be sharing with an authentic audience. So it's not just hand it to their teacher and move on. It should be sharing it with their students for a gallery walk, or putting it on a Padlet so students can comment back and forth on each other's work. It could be inviting an author in and sharing that information with somebody who's Skyping into your classroom. It could be a Buncee board, or it could be something that's put in the Seesaw stream for students to kind of comment back and forth on. How you choose to do it is completely up to you and your students, your comfort zone, and there are different ways that they can do things in the classroom. Think of it as beyond the presentation that you might do in your classroom. And then the most important part of a hyperdoc is the reflection piece. Now, typically, we don't spend a lot of time in the reflection piece, but if you look at some of the other school systems in the world, they spend a ton of time in the reflection, because this is where the students can kind of say, here's what I've learned, here's what I'm still curious about, here's what I'm still confused about, here's what I've got, and here's where I want to go next, right? So you're starting to think about where the students are and what do they need as the next step. So here's where you can really differentiate, and you can really get a gauge as far as the level of learning that your students have completed. So you can have a chance to take a look at the video that's on this slide if you want to. This is a reflection I did for a company that I do some things with. I'm an ambassador for the Spheros. I'm a Sphero hero, they call us. So this was my reflection on becoming a Sphero hero. It's part of our process to share with each other that are all Sphero heroes. So you can watch that video and kind of take a look at it on your own, but you can see that there's lots of different ways that students can reflect. It could be a quick Google form, it could be a Padlet, it could be even a private comment when they hand in work in Google Classroom. It's just a matter of getting students to reflect on their learning on a pretty regular basis. And then once they've kind of reflected, you can see where they need to go. This is where you extend the learning. So it could be a reteach if they didn't quite get the concept. It could be going on to something to enrich them. It could just be moving on to the next lesson. It could just be giving them more information based on what they're curious about. So it's a good time to kind of give them more that maybe you wouldn't take time in the classroom to do, but you're giving them the option to do something more. On this slide, when you can take a look at these on your own, so you might want to pause and take a look at these. There's some really great examples of hyperdocs if you click on the images on the screen or click on the even more examples. It's just going to, again, show you what a hyperdocs looks like. Again, here's some more examples of what hyperdocs can look like. You can you can pause the video and take a look at those different hyperdocs. And then think about being creative with your hyperdocs. And if you want to see some really creative ones, again, pause the video, take a look at these different hyperdocs. For more information on hyperdocs, there are tons of resources on this page. Again, you can pause the video and take a look at those resources. But let's move over to choice boards. So in choice boards, what you're looking is you're giving students the opportunity to pick how they want to express or showcase what they've learned. So you might have a student who loves putting on plays, but you have another student that's really shy and that would be very uncomfortable for them, but they love to write essays. You could put both of those on a choice board and both the students are going to show what they've learned. So you're still reaching that student outcome of whatever it is you want them to do, but they're showcasing it in a way that's within their comfort zone or really focuses on their strengths. They can be graphic organizers. They are very engaging to students because students can choose what they want to do. You can really differentiate based on abilities. They can be super fun. Again, it's time now to pause that video, take a look at some examples of some choice boards so you can see what they look like and how they're organized, and then come back to the video to learn how to create them. What do you put in all the boxes? So in the boxes that you're creating in a choice board, you could put videos, you could put lessons as far as like resources you typically use in your classroom. It could be a 360 image. It could be an augmented reality design. It could be a worksheet. It could be a Nearpod lesson, a seesaw activity. It could be anything. It could be just go out to any of your favorite creation tools and create something. It could even give just directions and they have to do it on paper and pen. Whatever it is you want to put in the boxes, you're going to put in the boxes. So let's talk about some different ways that you can design. So I'm actually going to escape out of this slide deck for a moment. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add an empty slide between the two that you see that we've been working on. And let's talk about the Shapes tool. The Shapes tool is located on your toolbar in Google Slides. When you click on it, it does give you different options. Typically what I use for shapes is I like the rounded rectangle, and I'll click and drag out to create different shapes. So I'll get them to be the shape that I'm interested in. And then what I'll do is I'll hit Control D to duplicate to make 4 or 6 or however many different boxes you want for your activities that you're doing with your students. And then from there, we're going to design them. So let me grab 2 more. Now, another way you can do it is if you don't want to have individual boxes like I just did, you can, and let me add another slide, you can click Insert and insert a table and do the same thing. So I'm going to grab 6 boxes there. And then I can create my table this way. Again, I can add in whatever colors I'd like. So if I highlight the whole box, I'm going to put the fill color as a white so you can see it. And I can fill in the boxes individually as I go through. So let's talk about how you fill in the boxes. If I'm on the one where I did the Shapes tool, I can click on any box, click on the fill color, and then add whatever color I'd like to be in the background. I can give it a border of really thick or very thin, depending on what it is I'd like to do for each of the boxes. And then inside the box, I can just start typing. So it could be write an essay about what you learned, or whatever it is you're going to put in the boxes. I can also put in links. So maybe in here, I want to make the box a different color. And in here, it might be create a buttonsie that showcases whatever it is, the process learned. Maybe they have to do the stages of a butterfly or something along those lines. And then I'm going to click on Bunsey. I'm going to click on the link, and I'm going to send them out to Bunsey to actually create it. And you go through and you create however you'd like within the different boxes. And you can do the same within the grid. So if I go over to the grid, again, I can change the color of each square by clicking in the square and then choosing a color. So you can make each square a different color, however you want to design it, and you write right in the box. So write essay, and so on. All right, so you can see how you can create those. So I showed you the tables and so on. So let's go back into the presentation here. A sample outline is you might put the grid on one side of your slide and then put the directions down the left or on the top or the bottom, depending on how you design it, that you're going to tell them what they're going to do. You can also create your lessons that like a game board, that they start at the first one, and then you can use the arrows, which are in the shape tools, to have them go through based on the directions you want them to go. So let's take a pause and practice. Create some shapes, add some text, add in your links, and add in your directions or videos. So I'm going to pause here again and give you a chance to practice. So when we're done creating our choice boards and our Hyperdocs, we're going to talk about how you can put it all together. And there are Hyperdocs that use choice boards built into them. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of them. And you have these in your resources as well. Here's a Hyperdocs game board where they have the directions in the center and it takes you around the outside and you choose how you want to organize it. So that's an example of using a Hyperdocs choice board. Here's a nice one for PE where the directions are along the left, and then each week they have an expectation to fill out, and then they choose what they're going to do based on where they go, based on the directions that are given to them. Another one, this one is more subject specific. Here they're going to go through and look at some different information, and then they're going to fill in the boxes, and then they're going to get to choose what they want to do as they go through based on what one they choose as they're going through the different options. So here's the choice board where they get to choose where to go next. And here's one for a novel study where you have a tic-tac-toe board where the students pick what they'd like to do based on what they want to write about the book that they're reading. So if you have any questions, please reach out. I'm happy to help you. And if you have any questions on the design or you need some tips and tricks on creating your Hyperdoc or you get stuck on something, just reach out. Thank you for watching.